Vineet Bhatnagar then from PhillipCapital. Vineet, hi, morning. Good going so far, but can we stay put at the 6100 mark?
I guess there is some level of bouncing around the 6,000 level that we could expect. This particular week is of course going to be quite momentous in the respect that there are a lot of frontline stocks that are going to come out with the corporate earnings. Infosys was a great bellwether on Friday last week, and if that momentum were to continue in some of the other sectors that we are waiting with a bated breath as far as quarterly earnings is concerned, actually 6150 or 6210 could be the new levels that we could likely see in Nifty.
Vineet, we are once again approaching 6100 on the Nifty. We have seen this mark 3 times this year and about 12 times in last 3 years. Do you think this time it's different? We will be able to scale up and cross over that 6100 convincingly?
Yes, I think so. I think there is that momentum that is quite visible. There is a good amount of buying that comes about when Nifty has retraced itself in the last week, 10 days to around 5700 levels. And what we noticed on Friday was that there is a greater build-up of the put options that has moved up from 5700 strikes to actually 5900 strike. So there seems to be a tendency in the market as far as the short-term traders are concerned to take advantage of a breakout that may happen on the upside in the next few days.
Vineet, what is the deal with Tata Motors? It is now marching towards 400. JLR is old story. Why is the stock up more than 15% in a matter of just 3 weeks on an old story like JLR?
I think it is it is a combination of all the news that surrounds a particular stock. There was also a period of time when Tata Motors was stuck, if you will recollect, in the region of 250 to 275, 280 number, and there was always a strong buying that came about whenever the stock reached the mid 200 price range. Over the last few months or so, there is a momentum that has come about, not only in terms of getting the JLR story right, but also if you look at it, any recovery that we are all pinning over the next few quarters are going to be clearly reflected in cyclicals like autos. And in a situation where people could be reconstructing or redesigning their portfolios, this is one stock that one wants to accumulate even for a 6 month, 1 year, 3 year period kind of a story.
Vineet, how are you then approaching the likes of a Ranbaxy? Some interesting moves coming in there.
I think that particular stock and counter has been really saddled with a lot of regulatory negative news that has come about over the last quarter or so, and that has been the death knell in a way for this particular stock. Whenever one saw that enough had been done to this particular stock, and there was a bounce back that came about thereafter, there was another round of news that came about, which was again another regulatory gap that was announced by the US FDA. So in that respect, this particular stock will continue to face some level of skepticism from the long-only portfolio managers because of the corporate governance and the overall perception of this particular stock. So I am not looking at any long-term interest that will come about in this particular name. There could be technical trading that may come about, which could be visible even now.
Vineet, how does one approach the bank Nifty? And if you had to pick out a stock for one long and one short amongst the banking pack, what would you recommend?
I guess, as one of these speakers was saying earlier on your show, a lot of routing of this particular sector as a whole happened in the last month or so, and therefore the bounce back that one is seeing is, although quite significant, but it is, after having really suffered a lot. Number two, all that our central bank governor has been doing obviously will have a good impact on the banking sector, because his focus has been to, as he has stated himself in his public speeches, on inflation, on growth, on MSF being a number which can push liquidity into the market, and therefore a lot that we were seeing in the month of August and September for the banks on the negative side has got lifted off. I have also read, excuse me, I have also read news items where he's talking about facilitating new banks to come into the marketplace, also M&A activity to come about, because of some of the foreign banks will be allowed an entry into this particular industry, which only means good for some of the well-run but small cap banks which may be suffering because of the capitalization. So names like Federal Bank, South Indian Bank, City Union Bank, all of them are actually going to be gainers out of any positive news or steps that the central bank will announce in this particular regard.
Vineet, you also mentioned that you're bullish on Tata Global Beverages. Why are you hot on Tata Global Beverages? It's a commodity business. It's a business which is not growing, and Tetley clearly is a big overhang for Tata Global Beverages.
I think the symptoms that we are seeing as far as this particular stock is concerned are twofold. One, technically this particular stock is looking like one which is quite nicely set for some good up move. That's one. And the second is that I think Tata Global is also benefited by the fact that the consumption pattern as far as the young India is concerned is quite supportive of their entire business model. While I agree that the underlying business is indeed commodity, but I think what is really driving the top line related optimism that we have is the pattern or the consumption.
Are you bullish on the Starbucks franchise? Because most of the analysts I've interacted with who track Tata Global Beverages are of the view that the big story for Tata Global Beverages is not Tetley or green tea, it is Starbucks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you walk into any Starbucks, cafe that has come about or sprung in the city of Mumbai, they're always crowded. I mean, I never get a place to sit in the South Mumbai Starbucks cafe. There is always buzzing activity, and that is quite symptomatic of the pattern that I was referring to.
What is your sense, and how does one now approach the metals pack? Because again, the moves have been pretty iffy and not really consistent with the upside, trades that one has seen in names like Acesa Sterlite or, for that matter, Hindalco.
I think, as we have always known, a lot of it is so closely linked to the sentiment coming about from China, and there has been a wee bit of uncertainty about really where China is going. So there was a period of time when we were all very concerned about it, and then there was also a consequent period when we said that China is really not sliding off and all is looking all right, though it may be at a lower rate. Now over the weekend, the export number that came out surprisingly were quite on the negative, and that has actually that will actually have an impact on the metal packs generally, and therefore it is this regional commodity play which is so well dominated by China that is going to be the lid on the sector, or the negative sentiment that will surround this particular sector.
Some other names which have been holding out of late, and sure enough, you are seeing fair amount of trading activity in the likes of an LIC Housing Finance, Mahindra and Mahindra Finance. The entire NBFC pocket, Vineet, has started to look pretty interesting. Any trading opportunity there?
We actually like Mahindra and Mahindra Finance, and so must be many others on the street. We believe that they have a great model, and I think it's a stock which should be there in the long only portfolio. Over the last week, 10 days, there is some buzz around LIC Housing Finance as well, which I have not looked at it personally, but there could be either a fundamental value or a trading opportunity. But if you were to ask me which one to buy as an NBFC, it will always be Mahindra and Mahindra Finance for the moment.
Well, over the weekend, Graho Finance also came out with numbers, and those numbers were strong. NPAs have not gone up. The loan growth is strong, and they've managed to grow at a predictable level of 20% plus. Vineet, for last 12 months, or I would say for last 18 months, we've seen a very polarized market. Only 25 to 30 stocks have done well. Stocks where FI concentration is high, those stocks have managed to outperform the broader market. But now that the broader market has stopped falling, do you think the polarized nature of the market will also change?
It could, primarily because of the domestic traders or domestic investors participating in that particular segment. And I say this primarily because as far as the liquidity-driven type of uplift that we are all expecting, which is true of all emerging markets, i.e. the FII inflows, that inflow should, in my opinion, be restricted to a very smaller basket of stocks. And I say this because going forward there is going to be an increasing amount of selectivity from the FIIs or foreign investors about how to play the DM versus the EM story. If DM growth in Europe, in UK and in US were to really be a true story which is consistent and sustainable, there will be an impact on emerging markets to some extent. However, that will still not mean that there is going to be a across the board selling or across the board reduction in the portfolios in emerging markets. It would only mean that rather than looking at a larger basket of 80-100 stocks, it will get restricted to 35 stocks. That being the case, I guess the frontline index will therefore derive its strength from that particular approach. How will the domestic investors participate if the multiples and if the price per unit for a frontline stock is going to be prohibitive for a man like me? Then I'm going to participate only by getting into the next line of stocks and the small caps and the mid caps, which has always been the story. But if you look at the sticky money, where will it stay? It will always stay going forward, in my view, in the 35 and 50 stock names.
Right, we really appreciate your time and thank you for your take.